Well, the question review now is the chart, and here is the information for you to read before we go into details. So please read the information carefully, and then you can come back. So you can pause it now. Okay, welcome back. Let me explain shortly about this question. This company is a stock market listed company. It means that it is traded in the stock exchange. It has managed to increase earnings over the last year. As a result, the board of directors has increased the dividend payout ratio from 40% of the year 2014 to 41.4% for 2015. And remember, it is the dividend payout ratio. Okay, dividend payout ratio means the dividend per share divided by earnings per share. And chart company has a cost of equity of 12.5%. The following information is also available. So you know the earnings, the company's earnings. You also know the number of shares issued, and you are also given the information that the nominal value of the ordinary shares is 50 cents per share. And listed company similar to chart company has earnings yield of 8.2%. For earnings yield, okay, if you don't understand or you don't know the definition, let me show you. Earnings yield means earnings divided by share price, or earnings per share divided by price per share. Okay, it is earning yield. It is just the opposite, the reciprocal of PE ratio. PE ratio is price over earnings. Okay, so it is just the reciprocal of PE ratio. So what's the requirements? The first requirement is we need to calculate the equity market value of chart company using the dividend growth model. First of all, okay, you need to check the formula sheets about the dividend growth model. For dividend growth model, P naught equal to D naught times 1 plus G divided by cost of equity minus G, the growth rate. So here we know, do we know DO? Okay, do we know growth rate? Okay, we only know is the cost of equity, which is 12.5%. So the ROE is 12.5%. This is known already. Then we need to find out the D naught and also the G. D naught is, it is the 2015 dividends, right? So what's the 2015 earnings? It's $13,840,000. Okay, it is the earnings times the dividend payout ratio, which means how much payout is 41.4%. Okay, so please, here is the dividend over earnings. Okay, is 41.4%, and we know the earnings. So earnings times 41.4% is dividend. Okay, here. So we need to find D naught by based on this information. So D naught is 5,729 and 76 cents. Okay, maybe we just round up. 5,730. Okay. And next one, we need to find a G because we already know D, no. And how about G? For G, okay, is the dividend growth for 2 years because okay, we cannot we don't there's no information available by the company about the dividend growth rate in future. So we base on the historical growth rates to project or assume it is the same in future. It is D no or divided by D minus 1. It is last year. Okay. Minus 1. And we know that D no is 5,730 divided by the dividends paid in last year, which is 13,200 times 40% minus 1. So what's the answer? So you can estimate, okay, is 8.52% the growth rate. Okay, based on the information that we can get, okay, D0 growth rate and also the return on cost of equity, then we can get the P. And P0 is equal to the formula given, which we can work on this way. For D0 is 5,730 times the 1 plus growth rate here, which is growth rate at 8.52% divided by RE, which is 12.5% minus the growth rate at 8.52%. So you can use based on this information, you can work it out, which is 156.2 million. So in other words, the answer is A. The answer is A here. Okay, let's repeat. On this question, based on the information provided in the question, if you are asked to work on the equity market value using the dividend growth model, you can check your formula sheet by copying the formula here, and you find the unknown variables like D0 and growth. Okay, the cost of equity provided to you is 12.5%, and then you work on the D0 here. So important part is you understand well about the dividend growth model, or sorry, dividend payout ratio. What is dividend payout ratio? It means the dividend divided by earnings. The dividend divided by earnings. Okay, it is 41.4% in 2015. Okay, so you work it out, and for the growth rate based on 2 years dividend, the growth rate you can get is 8.52%. Then it is not difficult when all the parameters and all the unknown variables you get from your calculation. Okay, so let's move on to next question. Part 2 of this chart. You are asked to work on the equity market value of this company using earnings yield method. For earnings yield method, as I share with you, it is the earnings or earnings per share divided by price. Okay, so based on the market information provided, the earnings yield is 8.2%. Okay, it is given in the question, and the earnings for 2015, the latest information provided to you is 13,840. So the formula here divided by price means is 8.2%. So you find out the price with this formula. You got 168.8 million. Okay, just based on this very simple calculation, and you can find the answer is B. Okay, because a lot of candidates, for example, they don't understand what is earnings yield. Okay, the problem is they don't understand what's earnings yield. There's no trick here, because you can present price earning ratios like PE. Okay, it's about the multiple. Okay, for example, if say multiple here, multiple is 15 times. Okay, 15 times. We are calling is PE multiple, and on the reciprocal of price earning ratio of PE multiple is the earnings yield. It is the earnings divided by the price. Okay, so it is the same thing to me, but the presentation is different. So students are reminded to understand well of these terms, especially in the before examination. Next part is a discursive questions about which ones or which statements are correct. So let's check. First, the first statement is dividend growth model, DGM, is preferred to earnings yield method because it is profit-based valuation model. Okay, we all know that the earnings yield method, okay, is the profit-based method, and dividend growth model is the dividend or cash flow based. Okay, so the statement is not correct because it says that dividend growth model is the profit-based model. It's not correct because here should be the earnings yield model instead of the dividend growth model. So it's not correct. The next statement, DGM, the dividend growth model, values minority shareholding in a target company, while earnings yield method gives a value from perspective of the acquirer. For the usefulness, okay, we explained in the mind map. We explained that the DGM, the dividend growth model, is preferred by the minority shareholders because the minority shareholders' investment objective is to receive the dividend income. So they prefer the DGM, dividend growth model, to evaluate their investments, whether it is worth to invest in a company's shares. But for earnings yield method, it is preferred by a company acquisition, especially in acquiring the controlling interest, because the earnings will be consolidated in the acquirer's financial statements, which is they can present it in a consolidated way, and also they can have the authority or they can have the right to utilize the earnings as well as the cash flow generated from the business. So in here, the statement is correct because DGM, yes, is preferred by the minority shareholdings, And while the EYM, the earnings yield method, is preferred by the acquired, especially in the controlling interest. And the third statement here is about both DGM and earnings yield method. Assume relevant variables, say dividend growth rate, earnings yield, will remain constant in future in perpetuity. Yes, it's correct, because for example, for DGM, all the dividend growth rate is consistent in future and indefinitely. It has no infinity. It has no it assumed for it, and it has no modification of these assumptions. And for earnings yield method, for earnings yield, it is the earnings divided by price. Okay, and it is also assumed remain in future, no change as well. So the valuation, like with the market average or industry average for the earnings yield, you assume this yield is applied to all companies in the same industry for the valuation. In other words, you remain the same and no modification for any future changes. So both 2 and 3 statements are correct. The answer is C here. Okay, last part is the summary of the class today. We go through 2 questions like ZPS and also Park Company. These are the risk management topic. And we explain a lot about the money market hedge, forward hedge. Also, we also went through different topics like the transaction risk exposure. Okay. We also explain the purchasing power parity theory, and also interest rate parity theory. We also went through the multiple choice or the objective test question to explain these topics, as well as four-way equivalence model. Okay, four-way equivalence model. So we finished the risk management topic for the class today, and we start the discussion about the business valuation. Okay, for business valuation, we have four methods introduced here, including earnings method, including dividend growth method, including asset method, and also the present value or the discount cash flow method. We explained these four different models or four different methods, the advantages and disadvantages. And in this discussion, we also include the share price movement analysis, the technical analysis, and fundamental analysis. We also share with you about the EMH, efficient market hypothesis. We have three different forms of efficient market hypothesis, including the weak form, semi-strong form, and strong form. And we also explain one past paper question, which is chart about the dividend growth model, about the earnings yield method on valuation, as well as the comparison or the assumptions between DGM, dividend growth model, and earnings yield method. And we will discuss about in more questions on business valuation next class, and also we will go through the financial management functions and financial management environment questions in the next class as well. So thank you for joining our class.